Hello and welcome. Today we've got Dr. Christina Rahm and we are going to be discussing heavy metal crisis. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview. Unless, of course, myself and Dr. Christina Rahm can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Dr. Christina Rahm, how are you and what have you been up to?
I'm wonderful. It's so good to see you again, Nicholas. It really is. I am just up to working a lot. That's what I'm up to. We are growing throughout the world in the area of health and wellness because of our ability to really help people during all the things that are going on. And as you said, we're in a crisis as far as heavy metals. And so discussing that would be great today, just to help people be educated even more on their own bodies and what's happening, not to scare people, but just to give solutions.
Absolutely. Now, we know that there is a heavy metal crisis. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it and also tell us solutions? What do we need to do now about it?
Yeah, so this crisis has been going on for years. We have a world that has been here for a long time, and all of the major government agencies that are out there that we all know about have recognized this. And it really started getting a lot of attention in the 80s. But if you go back to the 40s and 50s, they were even talking about worrying about the pollution, worrying about, when the nuclear bomb first went off, what was happening. Because when you have a nuclear bomb that goes off in the world, in the earth, right, it doesn't, the nuclear waste goes up to the stratosphere. It doesn't just go away. And people, I don't think when that happened, you set something off in another country. The problem is that doesn't just affect that country, that affects the entire planet. And again, the DNA of the land, air, and water, it's all connected, just like it's connected to our DNA, and it's affected everything. And so in the 80s, there started being a lot of reports that started going out at all of the major universities, medical schools, scientific organizations, government organizations talking about they were very worried about what was happening. There was an increase in cancer. There was an increase in diabetes. There was an increase in miscarriages and fertility, a lot of neurological issues. And they kept pointing it back to environmental factors, and especially heavy metals that were in the environment that then went into, human beings and then were passed on to the children. And then we realized even more through research and studies and doing in vivo and in vitro studies that it was not only going to the children, it wasn't just 30%. The neurotoxins were up to 70% in the brain going to children. And so it's just grown and perpetuated. And unfortunately, we haven't done a lot about it. It's very expensive. And another reason is the governments and the agencies didn't know what to do. And so our bodies have been greatly affected. So the mission of what I really have wanted to do and what Root Wellness is trying to do is to really help people clean out their own bodies, help people fight off these heavy metals inside so that they can continue to thrive in a world instead of falling prey really to all these different issues. And so through that, we've had significant success in helping people. And it's a lot of work though, because it's part of it's education. And you know how it is, Nicholas, if it's not something that's on the news that's sensationalized, a lot of people just ignore it. But the problem is this just builds up over time, and it's not just a little bit of a problem, it's a huge problem.
So you're a doctor. So what is a solution? What do you think we could start introducing in our diet so that we can start taking those heavy metals out of our bodies so that we can be more energized, sleep better, work better, and all of that? What do you suggest?
So I really suggest that people do look at what they're eating, and what they're drinking. I really suggest that people even take measures like, not to tell people what to do, but hydrocolon therapy is something that really helps get rid of heavy metals. There's different infrared saunas that help get rid of heavy metals. There's different types of chelation therapies, but some of those are really hard on the body. And one of the reasons I made the first product at Root, which is called Clean Slate, is because I really wanted something that could help go into the body and rip the heavy metals apart. And I didn't want to be able to take the heavy metals out of people's bodies as they are. And what I mean by that is, it's kind of like, again, when you're remodeling a house, and I know you shared with me that you're remodeling the kitchen and the bathroom, and I'm remodeling stuff at my house as well. If you're remodeling a room and let's say you're taking out this big desk, right? If you try to take this desk out of the door, it'll rip the door apart. It's the same way with your body. It's like a lot of detoxification and eradication therapies for heavy metals. The problem is they hurt the kidneys, they hurt the liver, they can hurt the heart, they can really cause the body significant damage while you're trying to clean it out. But the problem is you need to clean it out. And so to take something, which I started with the zeolite, it then became a silica and a vitamin C and a trace mineral formula that would help rip these things apart and help them safely go out of the body. It was extremely important. One of the issues that we have with all of the current environments is not just political, it's not just social. There really is a crisis as it pertains to viruses, bacteria, fungus, and parasites. And what I mean by that is when you have all these heavy metals, those things grow and get out of proportion. The day you're born, you come out of the mother's body and you have more bacterial cells than you actually have human cells. And a lot of people don't even, they don't realize that. So when you go through that birth canal process, that's what happens, because we're meant to have this living city inside of us that has viruses, parasites, all this stuff living. It's a community. But the problem is when it gets out of balance, when it's not controlled, when it gets too much of this, then your body starts having this cascade of inflammation. It's like a war inside. And then that's why it's one of the main reasons we have so many autoimmune disorders. We have so many issues with neurological issues such as autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, diabetes. In the reports that were issued with all the governments, they say this is a direct reason why there's so many issues with diabetes and infertility and COPD. So it's not just the current pandemic or issues that are happening that's the problem. It's what's been building up over ages, over decades, over centuries, and we haven't done anything about it. But we have the knowledge as scientists, and as I say this all the time. I was a psychologist, and I went back to school, and I really started digging into the technology, bioscience, engineering, and how to develop things. Nanotechnology was one of my focuses, but nutrition and pharmaceutical development was as well. But I took that knowledge to not use synthetics, but to use natural things that could help our body do it. Because the issue with using so many synthetics in your body is it can build up and there can be significant side effects. I wanted to produce something that could really help people with this heavy metal crisis. And the first step, again, and to me, and through my knowledge of what I've studied and my education, is to help clean out the inside of the body so that you can have living, breathing, wonderful cells. Because another thing, Nicholas, is when you have heavy metals, you're aging very quickly, very quickly.
Now, before we get into how to clean out the heavy metals out of our body, let's talk a little bit about what do we first need to stop doing to reduce the heavy metals, and then we can go into what can we start taking to clear out those. So what can we stop doing to take out those heavy metals?
Well, so one of the things is you need to stay away from things that have heavy metals. And obviously, you need to be careful what you're even brushing your teeth with. And I'm sure you know this, like fluoride in toothpaste. For a while, it was like fluoride was in all of our water in the United States. And now every country is different. But a lot of countries that didn't have it in their water would put it into their toothpaste. So this is just a simple suggestion, but it's very important. You shouldn't be brushing your teeth with fluoride. You shouldn't be drinking water with fluoride, because as that builds up, again, it causes neurotoxins that go to the brain and then the heart and then the GI, and it really hurts the system. Another thing is if you're eating seafood, for example, with high levels of mercury, or if you're putting anything into your body, even from a healthcare perspective, that is supposed to assist the body with fighting things off. But if it has aluminum, if it has mercury, if it has lead, if it has any of that stuff, graphene, you got to help get that out of your body. You want to try to stay away from it, but as you know, sometimes you can't. So what you got to do is, again, help things go into the body to rip it apart. But again, you kind of have to set your mind straight of, I like, for example, I love fish, but if I'm going to eat fish, we know that our water is heavy with mercury. And if I'm going to eat fish every day, then I'm going to give my body too much mercury. And so, for example, you shouldn't eat fish really more than twice a week. Some doctors and some scientists say now, because of the heavy metal risk with the high levels of mercury. And, for example, I love salmon, right? But salmon has a lot of mercury. And I mean, I love it. I could eat it every day. So you just have to, know, even though there's great vitamins and minerals in salmon, right? It does so many great things for you with all the omegas and the fat, like fish oil is so good for you. But the issue is, again, you've got to make sure that you don't eat too much of it, because again, it's a crisis. It's developed in the land, air, and water over the years. So while eating fish has so much nutritional value, and we learned about it in school, no one factored into all those educational books, because, books are like 20 to 30 years behind, right? That we teach our kids with and we teach college with. So now we understand that that's too much if you eat it more than once or twice a week. And so literally it's basic things like that. And then when you take anything you eat, if you take supplements, for example, because we all take different supplements, you need to know if there's any heavy metals in those. So like, I'll give you an example. Most people don't know this, but vitamin C, like a lot of the vitamin C that you buy in supplements, they have heavy metals in them. Your vitamins that you buy, unless the scientist working on them understands that and tests for that, then there's an issue with that. And then I want to say one more thing. GMOs are really bad for you because of the nanotechnology that developed those GMOs, and they're bad for the body. But another reason GMOs are bad is they have a high heavy metal content. So when you buy foods, when you buy supplements, when you do things, it's great for you to ask, is there any GMO in this? And then another question, because what I do when I make formulas is I actually look at the GMO DNA. And what that means is it's no longer okay for me to know that there's no GMOs in the products that I make. I make sure I get approval that there's no GMO tracing. And what that means is that the parents and the parents' parents did not have any GMOs in the lineages of the plants. And I know that sounds simple, but it's actually very hard to find things that you get that approval with. So I don't want to overwhelm people, but if you really want to start this path, you've got to clean out your diet, and you've got to watch what you drink, and you've got to make sure that you're staying away from it. And of course, people that live, like I have spent a lot of time in Ukraine. I spent a lot of time in Asia, and all the things that happened with Hiroshima, all the things that happened with Chernobyl, with the nuclear waste, the nuclear bombs and stuff happening. Those people have to be extremely careful. And again, I just want to say this, Nicholas, that didn't affect just them. The water, when that happened, it went into the sea, it went into the ocean, and it's affected all of us. And that's another reason that the fish have such high levels of heavy metal in them. And so when you eat them, you're getting that.
Wow, because I love fish, and I have fish about three to four times a week. I have salmon, all that soy sauce and stir-fried vegetables.
I love it. I'm hungry. I'm hungry right now. And I'm like, I want fish, and I love sushi. Like my favorite thing to eat. If you ask me, what do you want to eat? I'm like, oh my gosh, I want sushi, or I want fish. Or I want oysters. And by the way, I'm going to get into that just a little bit. Your shellfish has a lot. And like I could eat oysters every day. So, and I love mussels, but that fat holds on to it. So, oh gosh, this is a great point I would love to bring up. So your cellulite in your body, your fat, for all of your audience that do things to lose weight, when you lose weight, it releases the heavy metals and the toxins into the body. And so, you know how you hear people say, I'm fasting and I have a headache. Part of that headache is from the heavy metals being released. So you, again, have to drink lots of water, lots of good water, right? And make sure your water is doing great. Did you know that in the United States, 80% of our water out of a faucet has GMOs in it and has heavy metals of some sort, even 80%. So you've really got to look into all of that. But once you look into it, you know what you need to buy, you know what you need to do, then you're okay. And then one more thing, there are areas you can ask there to buy salmon, for example, there are places you can look up online, and I can send you some stuff, Nicholas, where you know that they're trying to be cautious about the heavy metals, and they're making sure that the water around the fish are at least better right now. So you just have to do the best you can do.
So for someone that's watching this right now and they're thinking, wow, I never knew any of this, and they want to do something, would you say that the first two basic things is to get toothpaste, which is fluoride free, and cut down on your fish?
Yeah, I would say the first two things are to make sure you're drinking good water that doesn't have heavy metals in it, that doesn't have fluoride or mercury or lead. I'm sure you've heard of the crisis in our country. We found out in certain areas in the United States, people were getting very sick and they weren't very smart. And we found out that there was high levels of heavy metals and lead in the water, like in Detroit, right? It was leaking into the system. So in those, but we found out that in those areas, people that bought bottled water that was not from that area did not have the same health issues. It was just a major crisis in the United States. So I would say water is another one of those things that are extremely important for people to look into. You can actually request the heavy metal content in your water from the governments. And you can get it. You could actually pull it up online. So if you guys went out online, you could look at your area and find out what the content is. And then when you buy or choose a bottled water, you can also look into that, Nicholas. So I would say those are the first two things. And the third thing I would say is looking into making sure where are you buying your fish, what content does it have? Because there's some that have less the more, like your halibut, and your grouper don't have quite as much. I mean, you just have to look into what you're eating. And then I would say those are 3 steps you can take in a positive direction. Absolutely.
So once we've done this and we've decided, right, we're on the right track, we've got our dietary, we've improved that side, but we want to do extra. We want to take something to extract those heavy metals from our bodies. Explain to us, what can we take? Explain to us as well what they are. And also, if you can explain to us, once we've extracted that and reduced the amount of heavy metals we have in our bodies, what are the benefits?
So the benefits are, I'm going to start with the benefits because I think it's really important for people to understand the benefits of cleaning your body out and doing this. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to say a couple more things that can help people. Epsom salt in the water when you take a bath helps detox heavy metals out. Lavender and some different oils, when you put it in your bath water or rub it on like in a steam bath, will help get out heavy metals. Like there's a lot of different things you can take, and we could keep going on and on about it. But you also need to take ingredients that are providing nutrients into the body, but at the same time, are detoxing things out, because the benefit to your body is that you will stop this cycle that causes autoimmune disorders. You will assist the body of getting these things out so that you don't start an epigenetic that can cause things like diabetes, cancer, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, et cetera. We know that Alzheimer's and dementia is not a natural part of aging. We know as scientists that it's actually an epigenetic, and it's also environmental factors, and heavy metals are one of them. So the benefit is thinking, better, feeling better. And we also know that when you look at a cell that has been exposed to heavy metals, it looks old and it's gradually dying. When you get the heavy metals out, we know through studies that then that cell can look like a newborn baby and can be younger. The age of your cells inside are not the age that you are. So people don't really realize that. That's becoming a hot topic, but we've known that for years, that there can be people that are 60 years old, but the age of their cells are 40. And you're like, wait a minute, why is that? And we used to always say, well, it's good DNA, right? It's good genetics. But now we actually know that it's not just that is one of the factors, because you're actually born, and this will be interesting to your audience, you're actually born, with telomeres. And some people are actually born with the telomeres being shorter. And the shorter those telomeres are, the quicker they're aging. So but now we know that if you can get rid of heavy metals and you can support the telomeres, you can actually help reverse that. So even though you were born with DNA and telomeres that are actually saying that you're going to age quickly, if you can get these heavy metals out, you can actually almost reverse that. You can help those telomeres lengthen and not be so short. So for me, and this is, what more do you want? You get better health and you look better and you feel better, right? I mean, that's a huge benefit.
And it's never too late to reverse it.
Never too late. And that's one of the things I have to tell you, over the last 2 years, I have worked with people that I have known for years, but they've been taking different things that I've worked on, as well as improving their lifestyle, like what we're talking about. And they look so much younger. They really do. They look years, 5-10 years younger, because they've really worked on this, and they're not doing anything else. They're just focusing on the inside of their body, because, Nicholas, so many people put so much work on the outside of their body, and their skin is the largest organ. It's 80% of your, it covers 80% of your body. It's so important. But if you work on the inside out, it actually is something that will last a lifetime. And you're absolutely right. If you're 40 years old, 50 years old, 30 years old, you need to always start doing this. I mean, if it was my option, I wish I was my children, because with my children, they're detoxing, they're helping eradicate heavy metals, they're supplementing their body. We know that turmeric, curcumin, we know resveratrol, we know aloe vera, we know that black cumin seed, certain vitamins and minerals, that the leafy greens like spirulina, I said aloe vera, chlorella, all of those help the body detox things out. Here's the issue. If you buy chlorella and chlorophyll and from a area where they have heavy metals, and they haven't checked it for heavy metals before they made a supplement or before they made ingredients, then you're not really helping yourself, right? So again, Nicholas, it's really important to look into products that you buy at the grocery, the water you drink, and also the supplements you take, so that you know that you're actually receiving things. And this is not to brag about me at all, and I really sincerely mean this, but I used to test for heavy metals in the products that I would make. And now I actually test before I make a product, and I test after I make a product. And then I also make the manufacturers test the equipment to make sure the heavy metal testing is working. I mean, I'm so cognizant of it. And I remember when I first started doing this, I thought, gosh, this is so many steps. This is so much. This is almost overwhelming. But if you take it step by step and you start cleaning out your life, it becomes very easy. It really does.
So are there any special links today that you can share with the viewers who really want to make a difference in removing the heavy metals from their body?
Yes, I can send you, Nicholas, links to post so that you have links that show people how to help get heavy metals out of their body. I also think, the products I made at Root, those really help people. The Clean Slate, the Restore, the Zero In, Relive Greens, Natural Barrier Support, they were all targeted at this, because it's so odd. People are always like, did you predict what was getting ready to happen with what's happened over the last 2 years? And I'm like, no, for the last, I kind of said this to you earlier, the last 20 years, I've known about this heavy metal crisis, and it's gotten worse and worse. So this was not shocking, if that makes sense, because when you have heavy metals in the environment, I'm just being honest with you, viruses thrive and they change because you give them the tools they need. Heavy metals activate things, right? And so when you give a bacteria or a virus or a fungus or parasites heavy metal, it supercharges them, really. And so the problem is, naturally in our environment, in our bodies, we don't want that. Like our pineal gland, our brain, our heart, our stomach, we don't want that. We want to align energetically. We want a direct connection, right? We are, I don't want to get into this too much, but, as a quantum physicist, nanotechnologist, there's other dimensions. There's other universes. The black hole theory is real. It's, we all acknowledge that now. String theory, time travel. It's not rocket science. I say that all the time. This is something we now know, and so it's not debatable. It's just that it's not like in these school books taught to everyone every day. But if you go into classes, you definitely learn it in advanced degrees, or if you're the person that really wants to look into it. But in order for us to connect, in order for us to be these wonderful spiritual, mental, emotional, physical beings we are, but also this energy that we are, we have to get rid of the heavy metals. You can't you can't have this focus. And I always say it's not just physical in life. It's the whole thing, right?
Absolutely.
We
Mind,
are,
body, and soul.
yeah, we are energy. You know, I shouldn't be embarrassed to say that. We are energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the energy doesn't work, guys, if you've got heavy metals, not like it's supposed to. Yeah.
Well, I love your energy. That's how we know it exists, you know?
Thank you. I love your energy. I love your energy too. I tell everyone, they joke about it in the office because they're like, Christina loves Nicholas Rahm. And I do. And I say to people, it's because he has such good energy. I mean, he really has this mission. And I'm so glad you're sharing with your audience how important it is so that you can share your energy with them.
Well, absolutely. When you're with someone and you say, well, I like your company, it's because they're letting off a vibration, and it's the atmosphere that they create. Or, you know, you might not like somebody's company because they might be quite dark, or it might be a place. And that's because we sense energy from our intuition. It's an inner knowing. So absolutely, everything is energy. And I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, it is. And so that's a benefit, right? To be able to have energy that's even better, because some of us, I think, have worked in different areas to improve our energy, to improve our physical, mental health, spiritual health. But literally my focus has never been just physical health, because it's the energetic, spiritual, you know, mental, emotional, psychological health that's very important. And just to say, I'm going to emphasize this again, 1,000 times more neurological issues than the year before. That's a huge jump, right? Huge jump. That's what we're dealing with. And again, I don't think it's just the issue that everyone's talking about. I think one of the huge issues are the heavy metals that caused this, right? They're one of the issues surrounding this, because you politically and socially, you've got all these things going on. But if you didn't have this heavy metal crisis, it wouldn't have grown and changed so quickly. And I really believe people would have responded different. Heavy metals, one of the biggest problems is you can't think right. You can't emotionally and mentally make the right decisions. And with autism growing so quickly, and Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's and ALS and everything else, people keep saying, wait a minute, we've got so many pharmaceutical solutions. We have all these scientists that have come up with all these things. Okay, guys, but you've never gotten rid of the heavy metals. So this is just going to happen more and more.
Maybe that's one of the contributions to why there's so many divorces these days.
Maybe. I don't know if that was my issue. I don't know if that was my issue.
Good one.
That's a good one. Yeah. Maybe though, because, you know, having heavy metals in your body makes you angry, and it makes you depressed, and it causes anxiety. And I can send you a lot of links so that you can share with your audience, because I think it's important that they become educated on it. I really do.
Absolutely. And I would myself like to look at those links too, because I wonder how much more happier I could be if I could reduce those heavy metals too. But Dr. Christina Rahm, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish? Yeah,
I would love for them to try some of the root products to help them, and to know that when they're trying them, that I did the heavy metal testing before and after. I did the GMO and GMO tracing, you know, in the products. Most of the products I make are vegan. Not all of them though, because if I use magnesium, for example, it's not completely vegan because it comes out of the, you know, the ocean with your trace minerals do. But I really would love for people to really try them to help. But I want to tell people, when you do that, try one product at a time if you can, so you can get used to it. And then again, I encourage you guys to look into what you're putting in your bodies and to make sure that it is the right thing that you need to take. And again, not all vitamin C. It's funny that you talked about that earlier, Nicholas. Not all vitamin C is the same. Not all greens are the same. And it's just important that you do put the right things into your body, and that you help your body get rid of the things it doesn't need.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And we'll speak to you very soon, and God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Thank you, Nicholas.